happens when two of music's biggest voices collide in a way nobody saw coming. The Kelly Clarkson Show, usually known for its warmth and friendly atmosphere, took an unexpected and uncomfortable turn that left the entire studio in stunned silence. Adam Lambert, the powerhouse vocalist who rose to fame on American Idol and became the frontman for Queen, joined fellow Idol alum Kelly Clarkson for what was supposed to be a lighthearted conversation about his new projects. But instead of a fun reunion between two beloved artists, the interview spiraled into tension and confrontation, eventually leading to Adam walking off the set mid-interview. It all started innocently enough. Kelly welcomed Adam with her signature enthusiasm, her bright smile mirrored by the cheering audience. For a while, everything felt easy and familiar. They laughed about their shared history on American Idol, reminisced about early career moments, and chatted about Adam's upcoming tour. But the energy shifted when Kelly leaned forward and said, "So, Adam, I have to ask something a lot of people are curious about. You've been the frontman of Queen for over a decade now, and you've done an incredible job honoring Freddie's legacy, but there's been some criticism lately, some saying maybe it's time to let the band's legacy rest. What do you say to that?" The air seemed to tighten. Adam's easy smile faded slightly as he processed the question. "Well, Kelly," he began carefully, "I'd say those people don't really understand what Brian and Roger wanted when they asked me to join. We're not trying to replace Freddie, no one ever could. We're celebrating his music and keeping it alive for new generations." Kelly nodded, but her curiosity seemed to sharpen. "I totally get that," she said. "And you do an amazing job, but don't you ever feel like you're always going to be in someone else's shadow? Like no matter what you do, you'll always be compared to Freddie?" Adam's jaw tightened. "That's part of the job," he replied. "I knew that going in. I don't think of it as being in a shadow. I think of it as standing in a spotlight that Freddie built, and I'm honored to stand there." But Kelly didn't stop. Her tone shifted again, still smiling but probing deeper. "Be honest, though. Don't you sometimes wish you were known more for your own music? You have such an incredible voice and your solo work is fantastic, but most people know you as the Queen frontman now." The audience grew quiet. What had started as a friendly chat was turning awkward fast. Adam adjusted in his seat, visibly uncomfortable. "Kelly, I'm proud of everything I've done, both with Queen and as a solo artist," he said evenly. "I don't see one as more important than the other." Kelly's voice softened only slightly as she pressed again. "Come on, though. You can't tell me it doesn't bother you even a little. You were supposed to be a huge breakout star after Idol, and while you've had success, it hasn't been the level people expected. And now you're touring the world singing someone else's songs. That has to sting sometimes, doesn't it?" Something in Adam's expression changed. His eyes flashed with emotion, a mix of anger and disbelief. "I think you're projecting here, Kelly," he said sharply. "Just because my career didn't follow the same path as yours doesn't mean I'm disappointed. I've sold millions of albums, toured the world, and performed with one of the greatest rock bands in history. I'm more than satisfied with where I am." Kelly let out a quick, uneasy laugh, but it lacked her usual warmth. "Projecting? Adam, I'm just asking questions viewers want to hear. You don't have to get defensive." Adam's tone rose slightly as he responded, "I'm not being defensive. I just don't understand why you're so intent on framing my career as some kind of consolation prize. Is this really about me or about something else?" The atmosphere in the studio was tense now. Kelly's smile stayed in place, but it was tight and brittle. "I don't know what you mean by that," she said coolly. Adam leaned forward, meeting her gaze. "Don't you? Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you're trying to make a point about success and expectations, and you're using me to do it." Kelly's expression hardened. "That's ridiculous. I'm doing my job as a host, asking tough questions that make for good conversation. If you can't handle a few honest questions, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews." That was the breaking point. Adam stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the studio floor as the audience gasped. "Then maybe this interview's over," he said, his voice calm but cutting. Without another word, he walked off the set, leaving Kelly sitting there, her fixed smile fading as the cameras kept rolling and the crowd sat frozen in disbelief. "Tough questions?" Adam repeated, his tone sharp with disbelief. "Now, Kelly, there's a difference between tough questions and passive-aggressive jabs. You've basically spent the last 5 minutes suggesting that my career is disappointing and that I'm living in someone else's shadow. How is that creating interesting conversation? That's just being rude." The audience fell silent, the tension in the room thick enough to feel. A few people in the front row exchanged uneasy glances while Kelly's producers off camera looked on anxiously, unsure whether to intervene. Kelly sat back in her chair, crossing her arms defensively. "I'm being rude, Adam? I've been nothing but complimentary about your talent. I literally said you do an incredible job and that your voice is amazing." "Yeah," Adam replied coolly. "Right before you suggested I should quit Queen and implied I'm not living up to my potential. Those compliments sound pretty hollow when they're followed by criticism disguised as concern." Kelly's face flushed as she leaned forward, her voice rising slightly. "You know what, Adam? Maybe the reason you're taking this so personally is because there's some truth to what I'm saying. Maybe deep down you do wonder if you made the right choices." Adam let out a bitter laugh, the kind that carried no humor. "Wow, okay, so now you're a therapist too? Kelly, you don't know anything about my inner thoughts or my choices. You're making assumptions based on your own perspective, and honestly, it says more about you than it does about me." Kelly's eyes narrowed, her voice sharp. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," Adam said, his words now coming faster, "that maybe you're the one who's bothered by the way careers turn out. Maybe you're projecting your own insecurities onto me because it's easier than dealing with them yourself." Kelly's eyes widened in disbelief. "My insecurities? Are you serious right now, Adam? I have a massively successful talk show. I've won multiple Grammys. I have a beautiful family. What exactly do I have to be insecure about?" "I don't know, Kelly," Adam said, leaning forward, his tone lower but cutting. "You tell me, because from where I'm sitting you seem awfully invested in tearing down my career choices. Why is that? Why do you care so much about whether I'm happy singing with Queen or whether I feel overshadowed by Freddie?" Kelly stood abruptly, the movement startling the audience. Her microphone, still clipped to her blazer, caught the sharpness in her voice as she said, "I care because I'm trying to have a real conversation, not the usual boring publicity nonsense. I thought we knew each other well enough, to be honest." Adam rose to his feet too, meeting her gaze across the coffee table that now felt like a barrier between them. "Honest?" he said, his voice steady but firm. "There's a difference between honesty and hostility. Kelly, you've been hostile since the first question, and I think we both know it." "I have not been hostile," Kelly insisted, though her voice trembled slightly, whether from anger or emotion. It was impossible to tell. "I've been direct. I've been real. If you can't handle that, that's your problem, not mine." "No, Kelly," Adam countered, his voice low but intense. "Your problem is that you think being direct gives you permission to be mean. You think that as long as you frame something as a question, you can say whatever you want. But I'm not one of your staff who has to sit here and take it. I'm a guest on your show and I deserve respect." Kelly's hands shook as she gestured toward him. "I've shown you nothing but respect. The fact that you can't see that is shocking to me. I invited you here, I've supported your career, and the moment I ask you something uncomfortable, you accuse me of being hostile and mean." "You want to talk about what you've asked me?" Adam snapped, his voice rising now. "Fine. You asked if I feel like I'm in Freddie's shadow. You suggested I should step back from Queen. You implied my solo career has been disappointing. You said I'm not living up to expectations, and then you had the audacity to call me defensive when I pointed it out. How is any of that supportive, Kelly?" The two stood there, staring at each other across the set, the tension so thick it felt almost tangible. Kelly opened her mouth as if to respond but stopped, her eyes flickering with uncertainty. For a brief moment, it seemed like she might back down, like she might acknowledge that things had gone too far. But then her expression hardened again. "You know what, Adam?" she said quietly, her voice calm but cutting. "Maybe you're right. Maybe I did push too hard. But you want to know why? Because I look at you and I see someone who settled, someone who had all this potential, all this fire. And instead of chasing your own dreams, you're living out someone else's. And yeah, maybe that bothers me because we came from the same place, and we both had choices to make about what kind of artists we wanted to be." Adam's expression shifted rapidly, shock, hurt, and then pure anger. "Settled?" he repeated, his voice cold. "You think I've settled? Haven't you?" Kelly shot back immediately, her tone fierce. "Tell me honestly, Adam, when you were on that Idol stage singing your heart out and taking risks every week, did you imagine your future would be touring for years with a legacy band? Or did you imagine something different, something that was yours? Adam's voice dropped, quiet but trembling with restrained fury. What I imagined, he said slowly, was doing what I love on my own terms. And that's exactly what I've done. Was having a career where I could make music, perform for people, and actually enjoy what I do, Adam said firmly, his voice steady but edged with emotion. And guess what? That's exactly what I have. I'm sorry if that doesn't meet your standards of success, but I don't need your approval or anyone else's. Kelly let out a short, harsh laugh. Of course you don't need my approval, Adam, but let's be real here. How many of your solo albums have gone platinum? How many #1 hits do you have? Compare that to what you could have achieved, what people expected from you. There it is again, Adam replied, shaking his head. Expectations. Other people's expectations. Kelly, don't you ever get tired of living up to everyone else's idea of what you should be? Don't turn this around on me, Kelly snapped, her voice sharp. This interview is about you. Is it though? Adam challenged, his tone cutting. Because it feels like this interview is about you working through some stuff, and I just happen to be the convenient target. You want to talk about expectations? Let's talk about yours. Let's talk about how you have to be America's sweetheart every single day. How you have to be bubbly and positive and relatable all the time. How you can't just admit that maybe, just maybe, you're angry that the music industry isn't what you thought it would be. Kelly's composure visibly cracked. You don't know anything about what I deal with, don't I? Adam pressed, stepping closer. Kelly, we've known each other for years. I've watched you navigate this industry the same way I have. I've seen you put on the smile, do the interviews, say all the right things, and I've seen the toll it takes. So don't lecture me about settling when you've built your whole career on making everyone else comfortable. That's my job. Kelly's voice broke slightly as she raised it. I have a talk show. Making people comfortable is literally what I'm supposed to do. And singing with Queen is my job, Adam countered. But you don't see me as someone doing what I love. You see me as someone who gave up. Why is that, Kelly? Why can't you accept that people find fulfillment in different ways? Kelly was silent for a moment, her chest rising and falling with quick breaths. When she finally spoke, her voice was strained. Because when I look at you, I see wasted potential. I see someone who could have changed music, who could have redefined what it means to be a pop star. And instead you're singing Bohemian Rhapsody for the 1,000th time. The words hit like a slap. Adam's face went pale, then flushed with anger. Wasted potential, he repeated slowly. That's what you think of me. That's what this has been about all along. Adam, I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. He cut her off sharply. You absolutely meant it like that. You think I wasted my talent, my opportunities, my career. You think I took the easy road by joining Queen instead of fighting to make my solo work mainstream. You think I gave up? His voice trembled now, not with fury, but with real hurt. Do you have any idea how insulting that is? How hard I've worked. How much I've given to my craft. How many obstacles I've had to overcome in this industry. Of course I know, Kelly said quickly, but she sounded uncertain. Do you, though? Adam's tone softened slightly but carried deep pain. Because it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like you've reduced my entire career to a failure, because it doesn't look like yours. You think success means Billboard charts and Grammy wins. But let me tell you something. I've done things I'm proud of. I've performed in front of hundreds of thousands of people. I've brought joy to fans all over the world. I've helped keep the music of one of the greatest artists who ever lived alive for a new generation. And if you think that's settling, then you have a very narrow view of what success actually means. Kelly's eyes shimmered with tears, her voice barely above a whisper. I never said you should be like me. I never said your career had to look like mine. Didn't you? Adam asked quietly. Because everything you've said today has been a comparison. My career versus what could have been. My choices versus some imaginary version where I made different ones. You've spent this entire interview judging me by a standard you decided is right. Kelly's tears finally fell. I was trying to have a meaningful conversation, she said shakily. I was trying to get past the surface level stuff and actually talk about something real. No, Kelly, Adam said, his tone calm but resolute. You were trying to prove something to yourself by tearing me down. Maybe it's about your own frustrations or regrets, I don't know. But I don't have to stand here and be your punching bag. He reached down, unclipping his microphone with deliberate precision. Kelly's eyes widened, her expression mixing shock and regret. Adam, wait. Please don't do this. We can talk through this. Talk through what? Adam asked quietly, setting the microphone down on the coffee table with a soft thud. You've made your feelings perfectly clear. You think I settled? You think I wasted my potential? What else is there to say? I'm sorry, Kelly whispered, her voice breaking. I'm sorry if I hurt you. That wasn't my intention. Adam looked at her for a long moment. The anger in his face slowly faded, replaced by exhaustion and disappointment. You know what the saddest part of this is? He said finally. I came here today excited to see you. I thought we were friends. I thought we understood each other, that we'd been through similar things and could relate. But instead you spent this entire interview making me feel small for the choices I'm proud of. We are friends, Kelly insisted, stepping toward him. Adam, please. But Adam only shook his head, his eyes filled with quiet sadness. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the studio lights, the tension between them now replaced with something heavier, the weight of broken friendship. I pushed too hard, Kelly admitted, her voice trembling as she wiped the last of her tears. I asked questions I shouldn't have asked, but we can get past this. Adam looked at her, his expression unreadable. Can we? He asked quietly. Because right now I don't feel like you respect me at all. I feel like you pity me, or worse, like you're disappointed in me for not living up to some version of me that only ever existed in your head. Kelly's eyes shimmered again as she brushed at them with the back of her hand, leaving faint streaks of mascara. I do respect you. God, Adam, I respect you so much. Your talent, your voice, your presence on stage, you're incredible. But, Adam prompted because they both knew there was a but coming. Kelly hesitated, her shoulders sagging as if a weight had settled on them. But I guess, yeah, part of me wishes you'd taken a different path. Part of me wishes you'd fought harder to make the mainstream accept you on your own terms instead of finding success within an existing framework. And maybe that's not fair of me. Maybe that's my issue, not yours. It is your issue, Adam said softly. His tone had lost its earlier edge. There was no anger now, only quiet sadness. Kelly, you can't put your expectations on me. You can't judge my happiness by your standards. I love what I do. I love performing with Brian and Roger. I love bringing Queen's music to people who never got to see Freddie perform it live. That's not settling and it's not wasting potential. That's me choosing a path that brings me joy and fulfillment. I know, Kelly whispered, her voice cracking under the weight of regret. I know that. And I'm sorry for suggesting otherwise. I think I just got caught up in trying to create this deep, meaningful interview moment, and I lost sight of the fact that I was talking to a real person, with real feelings. Adam nodded slowly. That's part of the problem with shows like this, isn't it? Everything has to be a moment. Everything has to be deep and revealing and quotable, and sometimes that means pushing people further than they want to go. Yeah, Kelly murmured, her voice barely audible. Sometimes it does. For a few long seconds, the studio was utterly still. The audience sat frozen, unsure whether to clap or stay silent. The air was thick with discomfort, the tension amplified by the quiet hum of cameras still rolling. Off camera, producers spoke urgently into their headsets, scrambling for direction, but it was too late. The damage had been done. I think I should go, Adam said finally, his voice calm but resolute. I don't think either of us is in the right headspace to continue this interview. And honestly, I don't want to say something I'll regret later. Kelly nodded, tears spilling freely now. I understand, she said softly. I'm really sorry, Adam, I mean that. I know you are, Adam replied, managing a faint, bittersweet smile. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry too. I said some harsh things about your career and your choices, and that wasn't fair either. We're both just trying to navigate this impossible industry in our own ways. We are, Kelly agreed, her voice small but sincere. And I should have respected your way instead of judging it. Adam reached for his phone on the side table, the same place he had set it when the interview began. Maybe we can talk about this later when things have calmed down, he said gently. But right now I need to leave. Okay, Kelly whispered. Okay. Adam turned and began to walk toward the edge of the stage. His steps were steady, deliberate, not storming off in anger but walking away with quiet dignity. The audience watched in stunned silence. Just before disappearing behind the curtain, he stopped and looked back at Kelly one last time. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Kelly," he said softly, his voice echoing through the hushed studio. "Whatever it is that's making you question everyone's choices, including your own, I really do hope you find it." And then he was gone. Kelly stood alone on the brightly lit set, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. The audience still didn't move. The producers gestured frantically from behind the cameras, signaling for her to cut to commercial, to salvage what was left of the show. But Kelly didn't react. She just stood there, breathing shakily, trying to process everything that had just unfolded. What had started as a friendly reunion between two American Idol alumni had spiraled into something raw, personal, and painfully real. The question now lingered heavy in the air. What had really caused the confrontation? Was Kelly projecting her own career frustrations onto Adam? Or had she truly been trying to push for a deeper, more honest conversation? And was Adam right to walk away? Or should he have stayed and worked through it on camera? These were the questions that would echo long after the cameras stopped rolling. And as the studio lights dimmed and the screen finally cut to black, one thing was certain. This was an interview no one would forget.